Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Adamantium Hour. I'm your host, Wes from Thinking Critical, and I've got a great panel for you today. We're going to talk some Dawn of X. We're going to cover all the number one issues, what we like, what we didn't like. We're going to talk about the art, some of the overarching themes, and we're definitely going to add some of the viewer questions as well. And with me, as always, is our X-Men historian, Doc. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, everybody. How you guys doing this morning?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Great.
Also with me is Chase from Gateway into Comic. How's it going, Chase?
Hey, what's up, everyone? Great to see y'all.
And making his channel debut is Rob from Smirking Comic Reviews. If you haven't seen his channel, he has great content. If you like comic book reviews, TV reviews, if you like gaming playthroughs and walkthroughs, he is your go-to source. If you haven't checked him out, make sure and go check out Rob's channel. After the show, of course. Rob, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Well, glad to have you here. And also making his debut on the channel, Jean-Luc, the infamous. How's it going, buddy?
Greetings, gentlemen.
Yes, and his icon's working now. We had a little trouble.
I'm fully functional.
All right.
All right, we ready to jump into some Dawn of X?
Hell yes.
Absolutely.
All right, so I remember when the Dawn of X was announced, I wasn't extremely impressed with many of the artists. I really like Joshua Cassara. Leinil Francis Yu is hit or miss for me. But, it did have an eclectic range of artists that people might like. Jean-Luc, being an artist of yourself, what are the highs and lows of Dawn of X so far for you?
Well, I'll have to take a step back and look at House of X and Powers of X first to put it in proper context, I think. And, Pepe and Silva, they did great jobs. A lot of detail, still a lot of open colors and such. They're moving towards a more cinematic style, and I really enjoyed it. But when we get into the Dawn of X, something strange happens. They kind of drop a lot of the line work. It becomes very fuzzy. It becomes what they call open colors. So basically, you drop a lot of the interior line work out, even more so than they did in the House of X, where they would fade it out a little bit, and you could still see it. It was almost as if they were preparing you for the Dawn of X, in which all detail would be lost, and it kind of becomes this muddy, painted type of effect where the interiors are very much just kind of done and left over for the colorist. Does that make sense?
Wow. Actually, yes.
Oh yeah, oh good.
No, that's a lot more thought than I put into it, but you're completely right.
Yeah, I have a tendency to put a lot of thought into things, but from an artist's perspective, they're kind of prepping this to become more so as a focus as part of the cinematic realm of Marvel. And so in order to do that, you really have to change the style of comics. What does everyone think about that?
Okay, he's thinking a lot more critical than me this morning.
Yeah, it's a pretty critical thing. Was there one series that actually in Dawn of X that stood out for you as like a really good example of excellent art, or one that fell a little bit more flat?
In which book from Dawn of X?
Any of them. We're talking about all six of them. Right.
Well, X-Men with Yu, if I'm pronouncing his name properly, I always have trouble with that. In X-Men, he's very well known for his very thin interior, sketchy line work. So they let him keep some of that. But for the most part, if you look at it, backgrounds are very airbrushed. Interiors of figures are very much more painted and airbrushed than before. So if you like that style, then it's fantastic, because in the past, it would cost a lot more money to get a painterly artist to come in and hype up your book, make it look like, it was painted like Sikinovich. He would come in and paint a lot of the interiors. And some of these books are starting to look like that. So that it used to be a sign of a high-class, very expensive book.
Yeah, with the X-Men, I really like when Leinil Francis Yu is doing like the big set pieces. I think they look like $1 million, especially when he does anything with technology. I'm like, oh man, this looks great. But whenever he starts getting into the character faces or expressions, he kind of loses it for me. It's like he doesn't like have that feel. Did you notice that as well?
Yeah, they're not letting him his full reign. You know, if you look at his stuff from the past, he really insinuates character into the drawings, you know, with his type of sketchy, thinner interior line work. You know, he really fleshes out the character. But now, since they're forcing him to drop out of that, I mean, this is an editorial decision. You know, they're like, we want this to look more cinematic. We want it to look more painterly. We want to move away from this older style of comics and want to separate it. So even him, who is very well known for his type of line work, is holding back.
Mm-hmm.
That's obvious.
So, Doc, you know, you've been reading. I think maybe you've read every X-Men comic there's ever been. Is there one series that stands out for you that's having the best art out of Dawn of X?
You know what? I'd say that it is probably X-Men. It feels the most like, I mean, I didn't read Marauders or not Marauders.
Excalibur.
Excalibur. Yeah, you couldn't pay me to buy a Tinny Howard book.
It looks like Marauders.
Okay, but regardless, I mean, my point is that, you know, Leinil Francis Yu, even toned down Leinil Francis Yu, even kind of more cinematic style Leinil Francis Yu is still Leinil Francis Yu, and it feels like a superhero comic. And you know, as much as I enjoyed the first issue of Fallen Angels, it's some dude taking pictures of his action figures and tracing them.
Yeah, a lot of tracing going on there.
Yeah. New Mutants, it's way too washed out of a color palette, kind of going for that Bill Sienkiewicz
very much
kind of vibe, but kind of mixed with, it's like Bill Sienkiewicz meets Greg Land. It's kind of weird.
That sounds messy.
It's good. I like it, but it's kind of weird, and it doesn't feel like a superhero comic. Whereas, you know, Leinil Francis Yu is still, you know, he's still got that great line work. He's always the same. You know, I think he's gotten actually more sketchy with this than, you know, say back on his Wolverine run, or even the first time, you know, one of the other times he was on X-Men. Because I think he did runs on X-Men and Uncanny X-Men at different times back in the early to mid 2000s.
Yeah, he worked on Claremont's Uncanny, right? At the end.
Yeah, he worked on, I think, right at the not the first original Claremont run. I think he was the artist on Uncanny when Claremont came back around issue 381, like 100 issues later on everything. You know, he was the artist on that. But this is actually even like more sketchy, you know, you work, but it's still good. It's relying a lot on the colorist, and I enjoy it.
Well, some of these books have two colorists, actually.
Yeah, I didn't really look that hard.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you've got this much painting going on, you need extra men on boat.
Yeah. That one's Sunny Go, I believe, on the first issue, and I think it was two colorists on the second one.
Right.
But I really like the X-Force art because it delivered exactly what Ben Percy said the series was going to be. Like dark and gritty, you know, people are dying left and right. There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. I know, Doc, you didn't feel quite the same way. You thought it was a little muddy. Chase, I know you were a fan of X-Force's art. What did you like about it?
Oh, man, you know, the story itself is really cool because it's kind of it's going to be, you know, the dark psyops kind of feel to it. You know, this is the stuff, this is that, you know, kind of like we were discussing before, this is that gray area kind of stuff that Xavier doesn't want to know about. You know, they're going to have to make some decisions and kind of hide them from him and do some very morally ambiguous things. And to match that with the art, I mean, the very, very dark tone that you see, no brightness whatsoever. Very, very rarely did you see a bright piece of art in that book, and that's exactly the tone of it. So I think when the art works together so well with the book, it resonates really well with most people. You know, they're way more prone to just jump in and be like, this is my favorite. And I think you'll see a lot of people probably saying that X-Force is their favorite because the creative team meshes together very well with the themes and with the art. It just works. And so that's kind of why I like the art the most, because the team is symbiotic and really did it together, you know, and these others, they seem out of place. And
So, I mean, Jean-Luc, did you notice that I'm sorry.
No, I was going to back up what Gateway was saying, that the tone of the book worked very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the tonality, you get the artist and the writers syncing up properly. I mean, you're going to achieve a certain type of tone, you know, which is the same thing with films, where you tend to get a genre or a tonality to the film itself.
Mm-hmm. So the one that really threw me off, like we talked about a little bit earlier, was New Mutants. It felt like Rod Reese was going for a Bill Sienkiewicz kind of vibe, but he was like really holding back because it wasn't nearly as gnarly, not nearly as strange. You know, do you think that was by design, Jean-Luc, or do you think he wasn't capable of maybe going as crazy as Bill Sienkiewicz?
Well, you know, Bill's got his own methods. Obviously, he's very well known for them. But I think he could have, you know, amped it up. But I think very much this is an editorial decision by Marvel, you know, to separate the books, but at the same time have this tendency in which they are somewhat familiar and acceptable by people. I think Sienkiewicz is a little too extreme for New Mutants. You know, it strikes me as like a children's book.
Well, yeah, he just had his New Mutants. Was it War Children? One shot.
Yeah,
that thing was crazy. But so, does anyone else have, you know, maybe one book that they thought just really fell flat? You know, for me, obviously, it was I believe it was Excalibur. Was it? You know, did anyone else, you know, go in expecting one thing and just were disappointed in the end?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It was New Mutants. That was the one that I expected to be my second favorite, honestly. Or, you know, because look, you got Brisson on it, and you have it. I don't even know the artist, but you know, with such a now, and I don't know why it felt like they were paintings and they were out of place, and there was no motion, there was no movement, there was no life in the art in New Mutants.
Very good point about these comics as a whole seem to lack movement.
Yeah,
that really stood out for me, you know. And I think it was an X-Men when they're landing the jet, and they kind of do this cut where the jet's in the air and then the jet's on the ground. There's no landing. It's just boom, boom, and they're like, "Can't you land this? Can we see it landing?" It's not very actiony, these books for the most part.
Yeah, even X-Force, which has the most action, you know, kind of the highest stakes, even that one, you know, is a lot of character development and exposition, you know, to start out with.
Yeah, but the character development is, to me, it seems more like, I'm making a sandwich. Do you want a sandwich, Cyclops? Yes, I'd like a sandwich. But what would you like on your sandwich? I'd like some mayo. You sure you don't want mustard? No, mustard makes my tongue feel funny. I mean, there's
X-Men. I wouldn't say evolving like that.
No, not all of them. But, you know, I keep reading. I've read all these books, and they're like, okay, here's the island, and the island does this, and we feel very fuzzy. And this goes on and on and on in each book, the reiteration.
Mm-hmm. All right, so does anybody else have like something about the art they want to talk about before we start getting into maybe some of the story elements that we really like, because we're starting to tread into that territory?
Well, I guess for me, like, the one book that I was most hesitant about was New Mutants, and while I'm not as technically expert, you know, at the technical parts of the drawing and sketching and all that, New Mutants art held my attention more than I thought it would. So I became more interested in the book in that aspect. But X-Force, I felt like had the best art because it, like you guys were saying, it had kind of an ugliness to it to me that was like down in the dirt kind of storyline that they needed to get to.
Yeah. When I was reading X-Force, the way I looked at it, I think I mentioned on the channel, is I think that's how Wolverine sees Krakoa. Like everyone else sees Krakoa as utopia and it's safe and everything is great. But when Wolverine sees Krakoa, it's dangerous, it's dirty, it's dark. You know, it's not nearly what everyone else thinks of it. And that's kind of the way I interpret the visuals on X-Force. And that's kind of why I like it. So, all right.
Well,
so
I think one last thing about X-Men 1 and 2, it really seems that Francis, I was expecting more from him.
mm-hmm.
A well-known artist. And obviously, because he's so well-known, they put him on X-Men, right? And it just kind of fell flat. There's a lot of people just standing around. Even when the apes attacked. The apes attacked, and then where'd the apes come from? And the apes attack, and that was really nicely drawn and everything. And then they cut away. And Magneto says, "Oh yeah, I'm going to take care of the apes." And then they cut away. So it's just like every time I thought it was going to like turn into like a very heavy comic book style action thing, it kind of just cut back to someone standing around.
Yeah, that we'll get to that because that's one of
Yeah. Art wise, it seemed to me as if, like I said before, like the Jet, you're just cutting. It kept cutting to these kind of art styles in which everything is very static.
All right, so we've got a great little pun here from Skip and Tosh. You expected too much, Mr. Luke.
Oh, too much in Marvel Comics and the X-Men. Yes, of course. You're right. I'm sorry.
So, we're starting to delve into some of the story elements. I thought we would go there next. So, Dawn of X has kind of something for everybody. You've got like your magic story, your swashbuckling, like sea adventure, a space kind of themed adventure, your dark and gritty action in X-Force and Fallen Angels. For you, Doc, what's been the highlight? I'm sorry, Smirk, what's been the highlight for you so far?
I've pretty much enjoyed most of the books across the board, except for as much as the others, except for maybe Marauders. But X-Force still, I feel like it's the easy choice, but it's just the best book they have out there because all the other books kind of feel like setup. And X-Force throws you into the middle of the action right from the beginning with the stuff with Domino that pays off brilliantly later on. Showing like the side, like we were talking about with Logan and how he views Krakoa, comparatively. Beast is sitting there, looking at it as such a gorgeous place and looking at it from a scientific standpoint. And Logan looking at it from, no, this place is dangerous. There's always a predator lurking, even here. And that whole theme kind of overarching that whole book and showing like what the people are already willing to do to not only just infiltrate Krakoa, but to just take the mutants out from get right from the jump, and how they went about doing it with Domino's skin. And even though people will say, well, does death mean anything anymore now that everybody can come back? And even though, Professor X gets shot and they're like, well, he can just come back. But just because we know this, the characters are new to this. So you shoot Professor X in the head, it's like killing your dad. And even though he can come back, it doesn't change that initial impact of seeing your father get shot in front of you and having this peaceful existence just shattered immediately. They barely started and somebody has already come in and tried to destroy it all. And it showed how their weaknesses, are already being exploited. The humans haven't been sitting on their butts waiting. As soon as they heard this, they started planning on how to disrupt this piece. And I just feel like that just, by the end of the book, you are so ready for the next one more than the others. The other ones are great jumping off points, but this one just makes you it's like the end of a cliffhanger episode of television where you're just like, what happens next? Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. So Doc, I know you had a different favorite, right? Wasn't it? You were the Fallen Angels guy, right?
Yeah.
What was it, that they did so right in Fallen Angels?
Well, I'm kind of a continuity buff, and Hill is basically he's just going after the continuity buffs on that one. It's a lot of payoff for the explaining like who the new Psylocke is, kind of getting people up to speed on the Quanon thing. He already had action. Like, you actually got to see the fight scenes, not just skip past them. You actually got to see some of the fights. You got some deep continuity stuff. You got I enjoyed the art. It could use a little more life, but I still enjoyed it. And honestly, it was just I felt like the characters actually felt like themselves instead of, because the one thing that, let's be honest here. The one thing that this Dawn of X and even House of X and Powers of X had going against it is that a lot of the characters kind of feel like they've been replaced with Invasion of the Body Snatchers pod people. And that may be a result of the island. It may be a result of the cloning weird process thing. We don't know what it is except for Wolverine. Wolverine's felt like Wolverine pretty much everywhere. But a lot of the rest of them kind of feel like space aliens. First of all, we aged Lara back down to being a teenager like she should be instead of being Mom Vereen, which I'm always happy with. So it was that or throw her into the sun, and I was good with this option too.
I think the Doctor has a good point here. I mean, while I was reading it, it felt to me like, okay, Xavier, he's dead. Who cares? They bring him back. But wait, what happens in the process of bringing these people back? It's like a copy of a copy of a copy. Do you lose something in the interpretation? And Nocturnal says in the chat, there could be complications because Xavier was the only one that had put previously someone's essence into their husk. So I kind of feel like there's going to be something sprung at us at some point because this is too bloody easy. They kill him, they bring him back. They kill him, who gives it? I don't even care anymore. So if I don't care after like the first series of issues, because they killed Xavier and right away I know, well, they're going to bring him back. But the Doctor makes a very clear point.
Yeah. Now that we've got a little bit of a stopping point, I want to say thank you to everyone for joining us today. If you haven't liked this video, please hit that thumbs up and let everyone know that we got a great video going on right now. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. And if you would like, to help support the channel, super chats are available. Also, our coffee page is in the description. And Doc, you have a special gift that's going out to some of the viewers today, correct?
Oh yeah, I'm giving away comics today. 3. They're just cheap books. There's stuff that you can probably find in a 50-cent bin or a $1 bin, but they're all kind of important and just really cool. And they're all a good starting point for somebody. You don't really need a lot to go with, and it might get you into something new. So I'm going to be giving away, I'm going to do 3 giveaways, one for the Max #1 from Sam Keith from Image way back in the day. Some of you may remember it from the MTV animated adaptation that they did, I think during like Liquid Television or something back in the 90s. That and Aeon Flux, I believe, were the 2 shows that were on there. And it's just cool, weird absurdity. The next one is X-Men #1 by Claremont and Jim Lee from, what was that, 1991, 92?
91.
Yeah, basically the highest selling comic in history, sold 7 million copies. And it's just cool. and it's a great setup. And if you like it, go pick up the rest of the stuff in it. And finally, a book that I refer to as the best Superman story I've ever read, and it doesn't even have Superman in it. Wildstorm Spotlight #1, featuring Majestic, written by Alan Moore and art by Carlos Deanda. Majestic, who is kind of Wildstorm's Superman, at the heat death of the universe. And about this guy just fighting until literally the heat death of the universe to save everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a great story. And if you like it, it might be a good kind of jump in for you into older Wildstorm universe stuff, because a lot of the Wildstorm stuff was really cool, and it was very, very influential in early 2000s big two comics. Marvel, DC, both of them just kept trying to steal up any talent they could have, all the ideas that Wildstorm was doing. It's great. It was Jim Lee's company before he kind of got purchased. He's kind of like Mark Miller at this point. When he sold his company, he kind of got purchased too.
Mm-hmm.
Purchased, owned by.
Yeah.
So Dot, thank you so much for giving these comics away. I'm not sure exactly how you're going to hand them out, but I do want to ask you something about Fallen Angels. There's been a lot of things I like in Dawn of X, but I know you had a lot of problems with Mr. Sinister. And in my opinion, the way that Mr. Sinister is presented in Fallen Angels is the way he needs to be presented in all the books.
Oh, God, yeah.
A superior version to what Hickman wrote from that Fraction version. He was much more cerebral. He still had, kind of playful nature about him, but he seemed a lot more intelligent and much more of a mastermind. What did you think about that?
Well, he felt like actual Sinister and not, whatever the hell they've been doing with him since Kieran.
All right, we're talking about the good. We're not talking about Matt Fraction.
No. It's good. It's he felt dangerous. He felt aloof. Because that's one thing with Sinister. Yeah, he was always kind of that guy that was just like, everybody is below me. I am superior. I can make myself even better. And all of you people are just gnats at my feet. And he felt the same way. He wasn't weird. He wasn't just being kind of flamboyant for no apparent reason. He was being, you could feel like you walk into his office and he might help you out. He also might drop you into a bottomless pit. He felt like a supervillain, and that's still working on their side right now, but he's a supervillain. Mm-hmm. And it felt like Sinister. It felt like Sinister up until about 10 years ago. Right. And that was, the first 25 years of Sinister, great. The last 10 years suck. If we can get the next 25 to be like the first 25, awesome.
Mm-hmm. So, Chase, is there one character that was, in Dawn of X, maybe you were wanting to see, and they finally put him out there, and they were as good as you expected, or even better?
Funny, I haven't had that happen yet. I know that may sound bad in a way, and that's not true, because in only in X-Force, and I'll say that Wolverine was the character that did it for me. Now, he is definitely one of my favorites, but ever since, I'll say this. So I do love the way that Magneto's being written by Brian Hill. I love it in Fallen Angels. I really, really do, because Magneto really is my favorite character in, period. And
Magneto is kind of like Leviathan.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to see more of it, though. So yes, Magneto has matched up to my expectations, and Wolverine really has in X-Force specifically. Not so much in Marauders, unfortunately, just like we've discussed before. There seems to kind of be a small amount of continuity difference there. Here's what's good. It's not huge. I follow all of these writers now on because I'm more attracted to the writing because I'm a writer myself, and I follow all of these writers now on Twitter. Well, all of them but one, and I think it was Ben Percy that was saying that they all kind of talk about all of this stuff in a Slack channel. Which I think is really interesting. It's a collaboration. It's kind of like a Discord, so to speak, where you can share everything. And I think that's why these are so close together and tied in so well, but there are a little bit of character differences. You can see that, and that's one of the things I think that's kind of irking me just a tiny bit, is the fact that from one book to another, you'll see the characterization differences. So I think they can do better on that, but it's them all writing together, they're doing a great job. So I know I went off on a tangent there, but Magneto and Wolverine are my two favorite characters from Dawn of X.
Well, I think it's age related, Gateway. I think they're trying to make specific books for a specific age. So
that's right.
They kind of turn, they soften Wolverine, obviously. And so they're just gearing it to 14-year-olds.
So I want to say welcome to the channel, Skip. We missed you very much. We had hoped you'd be here from the beginning, but you're here now. You've been a huge fan of Jonathan Hickman's House of X, Powers of 10. You're enjoying Dawn of X. Is there one thing that stands out above everything else in Dawn of X that you think is the best?
One thing? Is there
one character, one moment, one series, one thing that you think is just better than the rest?
I really enjoyed Overclock, the digital narcotic, if you will, from Brian Edward Hill from the Fallen Angels series. I thought that was really interesting, and I like. My brain has a tendency to make links to things, so the initial link was, of course, to the Posthumans, and especially even some of the art and how it looked kind of reminded me of the very first Posthuman that we saw post House of X and Powers of 10. With the lady that was found in the pod when Storm and Cyclops and Magneto and Polaris were all, I think that was Polaris, we're all going to do the mission, and they found her and she appeared and then she disappeared. Or at least we thought that was a Posthuman. I think we realized that it may be something else at this point. But that was easily one of my favorite parts, just kind of making the connection and we're like, hey, what about that and that, and what about the Overclock, and then the villain guy, I forgot what his name, Devereaux or whatever his name is, but the old dude with eyeballs that were more than eyeballs from X-Men #1.
Yeah, that was actually pretty cool. So Chase, just be brief on this one. Did you get the same vibes with that as I did when I read Angel from Brian Hill?
Oh yeah, well said. Absolutely, yeah. He's using that kind of. It's not a theme, but yeah, it's kind of a reoccurring. Some of the imagery and his thoughts really do go into it. You can tell that he is. He has some technology on his mind.
Yes.
Yeah. It's cool.
All right, so Rob, we haven't heard from you. Was there one thing that one character, one moment that you couldn't get enough of in Dawn of X so far? I know you said you like, but
well, a couple of things. Mostly like we're talking about Fallen Angels. I love that they take this character Quanon that a lot of people really don't know much about. We've always known Betsy Braddock as Psylocke, and then she goes to the Siege Perilous, takes over this person's body, and then Quanon's just kind of forgotten about, and they've made her interesting for the first issue here. I'm really on board with her character, but over everything else, it's Apocalypse for me, because he's the guy that's been sitting in the shadows, and we've been wondering what he's been up to, and slowly but surely he's making little moves in Excalibur and at the end of X-Men #2. And with House of X and Powers of 10 setting up his background with Araka, and now that already becoming like a huge point in X-Men #2. And Sinister. You guys are right. Like the whole what Hickman did, carrying over the Sinister from like Secret Wars, the very flamboyant. It's nice to see this, this very dangerous character return to form that Psylocke is choosing to trust with keeping the secrets of her mission and offering to give him the technology that this overclock has, and what the ramifications could be from that are huge. So I'm finding the villains that are, working with the heroes to be way more interesting than most of the heroes right now. Like, and Magneto, how he's trying to deal with the fact that Charles is dead, but he knows he can come back. But it's just, there's this weight to the stuff in Fallen Angels that he, is sitting there kind of like in this dark room on a throne. That's just kind of scary. Like he hasn't, you're waiting for him to make a move, now that this has happened, and I feel like they're all wild cards, and they're all really, really, what they're going to do next is probably the most interesting thing to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of great table setting. So Jean-Luc, we know you're an artist, but you've been a long time comic book reader. Is there something that you've read in this where you're like, oh man, that feels like old school X-Men, or I really like where they're taking this new element that you just think is better than the rest out of all the series?
Yeah, I mean, X-Force definitely for me. The part I like the most and the least, paradoxically, at the same time, is the whole bring them back from the dead cloning effect, invasion of the body snatchers. But what that allows the writers to come up with is new scenarios. And I think what was most interesting for me was when they slaughtered Domino, and we hypothesized they skinned her and they put her flesh on their bodies in order to halo onto the island. I mean, you wouldn't have seen that in the past. You'd have to kill a major character. Mm-hmm. So now we can have all these scenarios where, that we wouldn't have had in the past, I think, because, we can kill them. We can use their body bits and build up these strange scenarios. So, I mean, I found that rather interesting.
Yeah, that was one of my low-key favorite moments. I was like, that is so hardcore that they skinned her. They put her on their parachutes. They wore her on their stuff so they could infiltrate the island. Like, it really drives home just how evil the human characters or their adversaries are in that series. It was brutal.
Yeah, I think it's really going to lend a lot of leeway for the writers to come up with, interesting or bizarre situations that, they never would have done in the past.
Yeah,
so I'm definitely looking forward to that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One thing is, when we're talking about what they did to Domino, she's not dead. They took her skin, so it's like they know not to kill them. So how do they know that? How do they know that if they kill her, she can just come back?
How do you?
That's what I kind of took. They they wanted to keep her alive because we don't see her get killed.
Death is she's dead.
Yeah.
Is that what everyone else thought? Doc, what did you think? Is Domino dead?
Yeah, I think she's dead. They never. Although, actually, you know what? I actually don't think she's dead, because I know one of the upcoming plot points in one of the books, I think it's one of the Phase 2 books, was, because they even Hickman said this in an interview, I think, where he was talking about how one of the plots that they were going to do was what happens is when you accidentally clone somebody that you thought was dead. Mm-hmm. And it turns out they're not. And what happens? Who's the real one? And can you really kill either of them, or are they even the same person at that point?
Does one of them have a soul? Does one of them not have a soul? You can't have two of them. Which one do you kill?
Yeah, exactly. And I know that they're planning to do that as a plot point in one of the upcoming stories. I think it's the Moira book in Phase 2. Mm-hmm. I think that's the way I just connected with what he was talking about, and so I'm betting that it's going to turn out to be Domino. That's the one that's not dead. Although by all rights, they should have just killed her.
Or she wishes she was dead.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
absolutely. Yeah.
well, and the thing is, though, like, you know, you're meant to. I know that the story was meant to imply that she was dead, and the thing is, they don't know when anybody's dead. Like, they don't actually know. They don't have like a
Can't Charles use Cerebro to search him out and connect with him?
Yeah.
Yes, but they can't always connect with them.
Mhm.
He's even said that. Like, even, you know,
It's limited.
yeah,
Well,
it's.
dead.
Yeah, Cerebro's not perfect. It can't find everyone everywhere anywhen. If you can be in a psi shielded bunker, you can, because hell, Xavier has one in Westchester under the mansion, a psi shielded bunker where nobody can find that he was there. That's where he hid when, I don't know, some weird alien race was coming to Earth, and they were going to slaughter everybody if they knew he existed. So he hid in the psi shielded bunker, and that's actually where it was kind of important in the Onslaught story in the 90s. So yeah, there are those things, and you know, Xavier knows that they exist. So just because you are not, he can't find you with Cerebro doesn't mean you're dead.
Mm-hmm. So, Doc, I do want to ask you this. You know, they're bringing characters back. They're resurrecting them from the dead. You know, characters who died in Genosha and other ways. You know, what did you think about like Jamie Braddock being resurrected? It's certain to cause a lot of heartbreak, some strife. Why would they bring him back? Is that merely just to cause confrontation?
I'm thinking so. I mean, did that happen in Excalibur?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I have. That's the one book I didn't read.
Didn't miss much.
Yeah, I know. You know, he's still crazy. He's always going to be crazy, and that seems like. I mean, I get it that they're trying to. They're trying to do stuff. You know, they've already brought Proteus back, and you know, he was always kind of crazy. You know, I think Legion's probably still around somewhere, but they just haven't shown him yet. You know, they've accepted Sinister and a lot of villains and Apocalypse onto their island. Where's the line that they draw?
Well, Charles says specifically, all mutants can be trusted.
Yeah, exactly. And I that's the thing that's always really confused me. Like, no, they can't. Not every, because in the same reason that not all people can be trusted, not all mutants can be trusted. And, you know, I feel like bringing back Jamie Braddock is, you're asking for trouble.
Yep.
Seems like they should have brought somebody better back first.
Yeah, exactly. Literally just not him.
Yeah. So, you know, I think we talk about, you know, the stuff we really like. We've hit on the series and all that stuff. So let's talk about some of the stuff that they can do better. For me, the thing that has just been missed for the most part in every series that had it has been the humor. It's not funny. The Kid Cable humor is grating, you know, on the best moments. It's cringy on the worst moments. Excalibur had some humor that wasn't very good. The Marauders had a ton of not funny jokes that I didn't enjoy. You know, I've heard that from a lot of the viewers as well. Doc, is there one thing that you've seen that you just like, this is the worst thing about Dawn of X?
The thing that's irritated me so much, except for in Fallen Angels, is they keep skipping the damn fights. They lead up to something, and there's about to be action, and they show like the first shot, and then it jumps to the next scene. It jumps to the
Godzilla, where every time Godzilla would show up, they would like cut to the news program covering it. And you're like, what?
Yes, stop it. Or like they close the door to the fallout shelter thing. Like, no, I want to see Godzilla smashing things. That's why I'm here.
Was really abrupt as well. Like the apes appeared, and then Magneto said, "I'll take care of it." And then cut. I'm like, what?
Yeah. I mean, like in X-Men 2, I mean, yeah, guys, spoilers. You shouldn't be here if you haven't read it. You know, they talk about, you know, they're flying into this new mystery island, this not Araco, but maybe Araco, but sort of Araco, or Araka. Yeah. Okay, whatever. And they're talking about, well, no, they're talking about how, oh, you know, all of a sudden they land and they talk about how it was a really rough landing, but they didn't show us anything.
Yeah.
You know, they're walking through this jungle and they're talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. And then this, you know, weird land octopus thing shows up and eats that rhino thing. And they show the first shot and then they talk, then it just cuts to the scene. Show me the damn fight. I'm buying a comic book. I'm buying a superhero comic book.
But
Give me at least a page.
Editorial decision going on here where they're like, cut away from the fight. Cut. Why?
Yeah. And I mean, maybe it's just because they're, you know, they have limited, you know, space and they don't want to decompress it too much. But at the same time, it's, come on, show me a fight for Christ's sake. I don't want to just see, you know, the most action in X-Men 2 was Psylocke blowing down a bunch of trees that were in the way. You know,
well, I mean, they got hemmed up by the monsters.
Yeah, but you didn't see it.
Yeah, it's just, they were all sudden upside down.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't see it.
Absolutely.
Show, don't tell.
Chase, do you have something that's bugging you about Dawn of X that needs to be done better?
Oh man. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't like the way that Apocalypse is being written in Excalibur, honestly. And I don't, you know, I love Kitty Pryde and I love how she is very sassy. I don't feel like she's coming across that way necessarily in Marauders. I think she's being written in a way that kind of bugs me, and so is Pyro and Bobby, you know, Iceman. That's my biggest thing, just the characterization there, because I think that all of these stories have some great potential. So as far as I'm concerned, I think it's a lot of people's gripe as well, is that the characterization can be done so much more like the classic characters, and that continuity can stay the same across each book, while this goes on. You know what I mean? Because Apocalypse has been very serious in House of X and Powers of 10. And then he kind of turns into this weird Merlin-like mage in Excalibur. It's very out of character for him. I will tell you this: I did enjoy Excalibur quite a bit. And some people on Twitter tried to tell me, you know, what a terrible person I was for enjoying it. Pretty ridiculous, but
well, I'm just going to tell you it's okay to be wrong.
Sure. I like the book a lot, to be honest, but I did have to, what's the word? Pretend, you know, because I had to pretend that these were different characters in a sense, you know, to really like it a lot. So, yeah.
You know, harking on something Doc said about just cutting away. You know what really chapped my ass was when I'm reading Marauders. Pyro comes out of the boat and they're like, "What are you doing here?" And then he speaks and like, "You have your old voice back." And then he's like, "Yeah, no one asked me, but they resurrected me, and then they treated me like a lab rat." And he's like really sad, and that's all they mention of it. It was like, this is the most important and interesting thing of the book. Expand, please. You know, ask him a question. How did they, you know, experiment on you? Why are you a lab rat? Did you want to be brought back? You know. Those are the most interesting things that have come out of all of this, and they just cut it off right there. I couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
Did anyone else wanting to talk more?
Well, it's just a lot of cutting. It's just, you know, they're about to do something. Cut away, quickly, cut away.
I was like,
yeah.
It just aggravated, you know. And then not enough action. the jet lands, but it lands like a Cupid doll that falls off a tree. And it's like, what's happening? Where are the action? I want to see some blur lines. I want to see some action lines.
Yeah, so far, there's been some action in, X-Force and Fallen Angels seem to have some good scenes once they got to Japan, right?
Yeah, and those are the ones we like the most, basically.
Yeah. All right, Rob. Is there's something you need to get off your chest about Dawn of X? What's grinding your gears?
Well, I definitely the humor. You're absolutely right about the humor. One thing that I want to see changed fairly soon is the character of Kid Cable, and I can see in the chat that it's also people are talking about that. Kid Cable, while I thought he was fine in Extermination, but with the whole thing that it just feels pointless what he did to old Cable now that they were so close to peace, nobody knew it, and now he's dead. And the guy that we all liked is gone, and it's replaced with this Kid Cable who's just we haven't seen his backstory, and he's written with this really awful humor. And I just want to see them be in a situation where Kid Cable dies and they go, you know who we really need back? We need Old Man Cable back. I want to see the return of Old Man Cable as soon as possible. Because I think that we're probably going to get into a situation where we're going to need somebody with his experience back. And Kid Cable just doesn't have it for me. They haven't written him yet. I haven't given him enough yet to be worth hanging around. He's always like in Fallen Angels. I love Fallen Angels, but I didn't like the Kid Cable stuff. X-Men #2. I really like X-Men #2, despite what I think about the dialogue. But I don't like Kid Cable. And it's not just because he's not old Cable. It's how he's being written. So if they can somehow turn around his writing, then maybe. Otherwise, I say shoot him and bring back Old Man Cable, because he's got to be in the, they can bring back any version, right? Mm-hmm. So bring back the guy that deserves to enjoy Krakoa, the guy who actually had been fighting all this time for everything. And then he just gets taken out at the end of right before we get to all this new stuff. He's the one who would appreciate this the most. And he's got the most great military mind to be able to fight stuff that's coming.
Mm-hmm. Doc, should Kid Cable be thrown into the sun and replaced with plastic cable?
Yes.
I agree. He's so annoying. He was so cool in Extermination too, but they've
I know. Well, the problem is they turned him into like tween Cable. He's it'd be fine if he was 23, 24. But they're writing him as if he's 16.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's not, he's not that. He's not a teen. He's supposed to be in his 20s, hell, maybe even his early 30s. He's just not pushing 50.
Mm-hmm.
Or 60. He's because he hasn't quite got jacked yet, but he will. Mm-hmm. I wish that he was wish he was a little more interesting. He's not funny, and he's whatever fun he had is going away.
Yeah, he's a grating character. Skip, you got one character that's getting on your last nerve right now?
Not really.
One moment? What's the one thing you really don't like? Come on, let it out.
There we go. Okay, well, that's different. You said character, and then you said one thing. Now, character, nobody's really bugging me all that much, truth be told. One thing that's getting on my nerves, absolutely. Jonathan Hickman's not writing every single one of these books. Come on, Johnny. They backed up the Brinks truck to your house, man. Stop being so damn lazy. Write all the Come on, brother. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, how many books is Donny Cates doing right now,
Yeah, exactly. Donny Cates is writing 15 books. I almost called him the new Brian Michael Bendis. Bad Curtis.
Cates is writing about 4.
Still, and what is Jonathan Hickman writing? A book and a half? Come on, Johnny, get it together, buddy. I would say, probably, if anything bugged me the most, it's the overall art, like the art quality for all of the books. We had Pepe Larraz and RB Silva, and then what we've come down to since then. I'm not a fan of Yu's art. I think someone earlier had said it looks like he put all his action figures like in poses and then takes pictures and then like
you're talking
traces
about,
them?
I was talking about Simon Kudransky.
Oh, Simon Kudransky. Oh, okay.
He did the same
Well,
thing
I'm going
in
to apply what Doc said about Kudransky. I'm going to actually apply that to you. And then I will give you, I mean, I guess I can't really give you that much credit. It's really Jonathan Hickman's script. But the very first thing that we get in X-Men is a mission. So they start us off with action. And you do, if you go back and look at the panel, you do see action. But part of the issue is, I think more than anything, because we've gotten some action in these books, not a whole lot, but and truth be told, like if you go back and any of us who have read any of Claremont's run, it's not like it's super action packed, and Claremont built up to things too, and he had plenty of time where it was more about character interaction and not a bunch of physical action. But I think the biggest issue is the art is just very static. Like for anybody who's, I mean, we've all seen some of Kirby and probably liked some of Kirby. It's just so full of motion and action, and not necessarily violence, but action. And we don't get that same motion, that same fluidity in these books and in these panels for the most part. I will say, as far as fluidity goes, and it's probably the book that I was like, this is the most inconsistent art, but the highs are really high to me in Fallen Angels and the lows are low. But that's probably where we've gotten the most action, with the exception of the very first. I mean, and obviously X-Force 2, we did get some action in there. But even still, the art, like as interesting as it was, and I appreciate it, it was still just very static, and the fluidity for the most part wasn't there. So if I have a biggest gripe about anything, it's the lack of fluidity, the lack of inertia, if you will, inside of the art, pretty much across all the books.
Jean-Luc, you're the artist. Is he correct? Is that what you think as well? You're talking about it earlier.
He's absolutely right. I mean, it's just so static. The frames are so static, and the cuts just emphasize that even more so. It just kind of leaves me feeling like, okay, is something going to happen? I mean, I like artists that really show a lot of movement, and like he was talking about Kirby or even Gil Kane, all the Gil Kane stuff. I mean, I want to see motion. It doesn't necessarily have to be violence. I'm not harping on violence, but action and motion. It just seems like even when the characters are talking about ham sandwiches, I want to see some emphasis on the emotionality of that ham sandwich. How hungry are you, Cyclops? Show me the hunger. And I don't see that.
So I'm going to put you on the spot, Jean-Luc. I think we all know that these 6 comics, not all of them are going to make it. Which of one of the Dawn of X titles do you think will be canceled first?
Marauders must die. Marauders must die. No, I mean, it's a children's book, and it has its place. It's Kitty Pryde and a little dragon and such. But for me personally, I'm not very enamored by it.
Mm-hmm. Skip, is there one comic you think is probably going to be on the chopping block that people aren't going to maybe connect with quite like you have with all the series?
Ooh, that is a little tough, just because they are all kind of so distinct. I got a feeling, and this is one of the ones that I favor a little bit more, but I got a feeling if any of them fall off a little sooner than the others, I think it actually might be New Mutants. Yeah, and I was New Mutants. I mean, after reading Fallen Angel, New Mutants dropped down to my number 3 book for me. But I like, and I appreciate, kind of like, that a little bit more abstract art, a little more ethereal kind of art. I like that as a break away from, just lines and inks and color. Like I like that stuff. I like, just the feeling of it and whatnot. But I just think because of the characterizations, because of the lack of oomph in the writing, I just feel like that book, is as far as overall feel and satisfaction, apart from myself just gauging the overall feel of the community, from us speaking here to Twitter to even talking, to my main 2 comic book shops that I go to, I just feel like that is going to be the one that may fall off the easiest. And I think the only thing that might save it, even though Jonathan Hickman's my favorite writer and he tended to script most of the first one that I read, I think unless Ed Brisson can come in and give it, spank some spark into it, I think it's definitely going to be the first one to drop off, even beyond Excalibur, just because I know there's enough fantasy fans out there to kind of fan the flames of Excalibur, in my personal opinion. And Teeny Howard, I'm definitely not a fan, but it was passable. And for fantasy, with as much lore as kind of already built into it and Camelot and everything, I think it can kind of survive a little bit longer. So whoever else has,
there we go. All right, Chase, who do you think is going to be the first one on the chopping block? You got to give me a title.
Yeah, I think that they'll probably, and this is so, if I could just, there's 2 books that I took off my pull list, and that was New Mutants and Marauders. And then I added Undiscovered Country by Snyder. But so I liked Excalibur, I really did, more than the others. And the only reason why I say that is because the magic appeals to me. That's really the biggest thing. Here's the thing. I think that I don't think that New Mutants is going to be canceled. I think that it's actually going to be, and I don't think that maybe Marauders will either. Some of these books feel like they're going to be limited, if that makes sense, as far as the themes and the stories go. And I think that I hate to say it, but I feel like 2 that I like, Excalibur and Fallen Angels will likely be 2 of the first to go. Mm-hmm. And it's not because they're not good. In my opinion, it's because the story will seem to find an ending first. And unless the themes change, unless the story changes a little bit, they're going to have to find a way to start writing in that serial format. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. I could take or leave New Mutants or Marauders at this point, but I don't think that's what's going to be canceled first.
Bingo.
All right, Rob. What do you think, buddy?
Well, I mean, X-Men and X-Force are pretty much untouchable. I feel like there's no way that anybody's gonna, especially just brand name alone, people just recognize them. Excalibur hasn't been around in a while, and New Mutants, you either love them or there's a lot of gray area for New Mutants. But I feel like it's since it's only issue 1, and I think these stories have so much more to say. But Marauders and Fallen Angels are both, to me, like, I think people are going to have a hard time. Like, hardcore readers are all on board with Fallen Angels, like I am, but I don't know if it's going to connect with a lot of people because, like, Kid Cable's not really connectable. They're trying to make Kid Cable connectable to, like, a younger audience, but I don't think it's going to do it. Psylocke, a lot of people don't really know that much about her, and since a lot of people just don't like what they've done with X-23 in the past, it's kind of like it's a very hard group of characters to get people that are like casual readers into it. And then Marauders is just, I don't know. It's my least favorite book. And so I'd say it would be Marauders, but in my heart, I think it's Fallen Angels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, That's unfortunate. Doc, put it out there. What's your choice? What do you think would be the first one cut?
Well, what I think or what I want?
Hey, what you think?
What I think is it'll likely be Marauders or Fallen Angels. Probably now Fallen Angels because I think Chase kind of covered a lot of it, or was it Rob? I don't remember. I don't know. All you white people sound the same.
I'm red.
That's why I didn't count you. You're red. You're Demon Sean Connery.
I am.
So
I am absolutely.
So no, like it seems like, first of all, the Psylocke that's in this for returning X fans that maybe have drifted away in the past few years, they're going to sit there and go, who in the hell is this? Why is this not Psylocke? Because Quanon is kind of a really deep, it's been done and forgotten a couple of times, and she's never connected as a character. People cared about Psylocke because it was Betsy, not because it was an Asian chick who had her body snatched. Teen Cable, nobody cares about him, and he's not real Cable. He's kind of looked at as the replacement, kind of the way that like Teen Tony Iron Man was back in the 90s. And then X-23, I think, has been irreparably damaged by Tom Taylor in the past. Tom Taylor and who's the chick that's always obsessed with food? That writer. No. The fat Mariko Tamaki.
Okay.
No fat shaming.
Hey, I'm fat too. Screw her. I don't care.
Ooh. That hurt.
Yeah, Breen got it in the chat. I think I killed Rob.
Yeah, I'm back.
So no, but I think X-23 has been kind of irreparably damaged in the past 5 or 6 years. And one of the they can either ignore it, which is I think the approach that they're taking, or throw her into the sun, and we find out that the X-23 that came out of murder, like Arcade's Murder World in Avengers Arena, wasn't the real X-23. One of the two. I don't care which one. And ignoring it seems to work. But the problem is, I don't think that there's enough. It's kind of like the island. That book's kind of the island of misfit toys. And to continuity freaks, it's awesome. And it's got good story. It's got heart. Even the art is pretty okay. It needs a little more life to it, but it's a good story, but I don't think it's going to connect. And then Marauders it's not a traditional X title. It's got a weird premise that I don't think anybody's going to care about. And I just don't think it's gonna hook people. Excalibur, I want to go. I want it to be gone because I just want Tinny Howard off the book. But and because I like to have real Psylocke and real Captain Britain back. But I would like it to be gone, but I don't think it will, because I think they really want to use that book I think they have a lot of plans for it. Especially when it comes to the whole Four Horsemen thing. And, I think, with getting into Otherworld and stuff like that, I think it's going to be an important kind of step for the whole story. And so I think that they'll keep it on life support if they have to.
Yeah, I have a similar feeling about New Mutants, because Jonathan Hickman's writing, I believe, 3 of the first 6 story arcs. His favorite mutant is Cypher. He said he needs to do certain stuff in New Mutants for the entire story to progress for all of Dawn of X. So I think it actually doesn't matter if that book sells, because I think it's Hickman's like what he wants to have done. He put the best X-Men writer at Marvel when he arrived on the book for a reason. So I think New Mutants is probably safe. Although it wasn't mine. There's some Bendis speak in there that I thought was weird, but we're going beyond that. Let's get to the next topic. So Chase, I want to talk to you about this. One of the things that I'm seeing, with the Dawn of X titles, it seems to be across the board is one of the big themes is the effects Krakoa are having on mutants. Some of them are physically manifesting, Mondo, Black Tom Cassidy are physically changing as they bond with the item. We've seen what happens to Cypher in the future. Some people are dropping their names. Apocalypse is now mutant letter A. Kitty Pryde wants to be Kate. Psylocke no longer wants to be Psylocke. She's going to be Captain Britain. She'd already dropped that name. So people are dropping their identities. They're changing stuff. We're seeing Cyclops is trying to be like the loving father that we've never really seen. It's really affecting everyone differently. Are you seeing that? And what are some of the overarching things that you like about these books?
Oh, yeah. So it's the themes that make me really say, okay, this is a incredible concept, and it's the reason that I love X-Force and Fallen Angels so much, because those are the most well fleshed out of the themes in the series, you know. But going back to what you were saying, you know, if we were talking about this as a whole, there is that one similar aspect that everyone is being affected by the island specifically in a different way. And it continues to happen in every single book. And even if I don't resonate with the writing in every single book, I'm still able to see that occurring with characters. And I will say this, I believe as a theory that the island is going to be actually what is changing these people. And I don't think that it's going to be for the positive. I think that I think the island is a little bit malevolent. And we have yet to see that, but I see the foreshadowing happening. So as far as those themes go, you know, my very favorites, and I know we'll get into these deeper, is X-Force and Fallen Angels, you know. But yeah, there is definitely a theme of change in these characters. And that's why I'm not so bothered by the different characterization so much, almost because I could chalk it up to the island doing this. And I'm kind of hoping that's what's happening, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. I had the same thing. I think, you know, because when Krakoa was introduced into X-Men, it's like eating people, like it's feeding off of mutants, and all of a sudden now it's their buddy. I think it's feeding off their minds right now. It's changing them, and Wolverine is the only one not being affected. Doc, I know we've talked about this, but why would Wolverine not be affected while everyone else is being changed?
Because Wolverine has always been basically very, very resilient or resistant to any sort of mind control in any way. It's kind of part of his, you know, because mind control involves breaking and damaging the mind and rebuilding it in a different way. So his brain literally fights it off, you know, because it's damage essentially, and his healing factor heals it. So that's so like whenever they did, you know, it took a celestial death seed to turn him into war, or the whichever horseman he was. I think he was Death. Sorry. It took you know, actual like implants and stuff and physically blocking parts of his brain to, you know, to whenever he was Weapon X. You know, they had a lot of it took forever to get his brainwashing done, and that's basically and then the hand used, you know, magic essentially to brainwash him. So he's very, very resilient to just kind of normal psychic brainwashing type stuff, and especially other mutants that do any sort of mind control. He's just naturally immune to it.
Mm-hmm. So, Jean-Luc, you know, what do you think about that overarching thing and the way people are changing? Do you think that the characterization being a little bit off is actually part of an overarching story arc that deals with Krakoa affecting the mutants?
I'd like to think that, but I think it's, as I said before, I think it's more certain books or certain age groups. I do think, I agree with Gateway, I think there's going to be some sort of reveal. I mean, I think there has to be, where the island is doing very bizarre things to everyone. But I also think that it has to be addressed. What are these clones? You know, are they aberrations? What changes occurs between, you know, what is the original, what do you become when you have your spirit or your soul, supposedly? I mean, they're trying to imply that your soul is being transferred, but it's really all just digital, isn't it?
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a copy of I mean, I have floppies at home, but I don't call it soulful. So I think there's going to be something revealed at some point. I don't know how they're going to do it, because if everyone's revealed to just be a copy of a copy, you know, then how are you going to return to the original X-Men?
I have an idea.
Go for it.
And I think it comes down to why Kitty's not being permitted through the portals.
Right.
And it's because she can go inside the island in a way that nobody else can. and she can let the island pass through her without being able to actually touch her. So I think a lot of the, you'll end up finding out that, oh, well, the real X-Men are sucked in some pocket underneath, and this is how they have to get them out, and Kitty's the one that's going to find them.
But what about the ones that have died off the island?
Well, it doesn't know, like the real X-Men.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Going even further back. Okay.
Yeah, none of the people that we're seeing here are real.
None of the ones that are actually dying are the real ones.
Yeah. That's kind of what that's an easy out. I don't know if they'll do that.
It's one of those outs where, at the end of the movie, the person wakes up and goes, "Oh, it was all a nightmare." And that's a cop out, right?
It is, but sometimes cop outs are okay.
Yeah.
So my assumption is that Kitty isn't being allowed on the island by Charles because of one of her power sets. Possibly could have possibly see through his motives, or maybe see there's something evil about it, and he doesn't want her on the island. Does anyone else have that feeling about Kitty Pryde?
I don't think Charles can control the gates though.
Yeah, he's doing with Cypher, his team of security people. They're not letting her in.
I had a different theory.
Okay.
My theory was that Krakoa wasn't letting her in because Krakoa doesn't like the fact that she can phase through things. She can kind of come and go as she pleases. So she kind of, in my mind, in Krakoa's mind, I guess Krakoa has a mind, she poses that threat, that she can just come and go. But I guess the other thing would be, if we did go to, and I think actually someone just said it in chat. The other thing is that if Charles did get through, and like Moira said, I don't want any precogs yet, and he was like, hey, we can only hold them off for so long, but you're going to have to figure out what to do because we can't keep precogs off forever. It's going to start to look suspicious. So if Charles is affecting Kitty coming and going at any way, I feel like that is the reason why. But I also want to point something out. It was so funny how they pushed so hard in Marauders for her to go by Kate. But then you come over to Excalibur, and as soon as it was like, oh, yeah, Kitty lost her boat, so she had to get another boat. Like, Percy went right back to calling her Kitty, like, no problems at all. And I was like, thank you, Ben Percy. Kitty it is.
So, Rob, do you have any feelings about the significance of Kitty Pryde not being allowed on Krakoa? Is it the island itself? Do you think it's the security team keeping her out?
I think it's a little column A, column B situation. I don't, like when we talked about the precogs thing, which is obviously going to be a future problem. I think, like when you say that she can just go through and see everything, they don't want anybody peeking behind the curtain just yet. But like, as far as the overarching themes, though, the books and stuff, like when dealing with identity and all this other stuff. What I remember was that Krakoa was a place where mutants came to die. I think they even mentioned that really early on.
Venus flytrap.
Yeah, and what's the saying? When something is too good to be true, it's because it's a lie. And I think when we get down to it, that this is going to be like a whole thing. And just my like big picture is that Krakoa, Apocalypse, and Moira are all like part of one thing going on here because of Apocalypse's old connection with Krakoa. And just the future that Moira had with Apocalypse, and just the fact that Apocalypse was just standing in the shadows for so much and is now making moves with Araka. I don't know where it's all going to lead or how it's going to lead. Everybody's got these great theories of how this could all go down, but I just think that it is messing with their heads a little bit. I think that also the freedom that they feel for the first time is allowing them to shut off the past to be the people that they think that they are. But really, I think they're going to find out that the people that they think they are aren't really who they are. And like you said, like maybe they're not real. Maybe they're doing this because they're not the real X-Men. I think Doc said it. That's a really, really well thought out idea that we find out that the real X-Men aren't even here and that these are all like the copies of a copy. It makes me think of Fight Club for some reason. But
well, there's
Like what happens if something is a copy of a copy, you know?
Mhm.
I would be Jack's total lack of surprise if that was the case.
That was the exact response. That was the right one. Yeah, you know, I can't wait to see exactly what's going to happen with that because it takes something away, and I want to see what all of these writers have to say about that, you know, and have to say about that whole what is it, post-humanism, so to speak, you know, in that aspect of it, because there's some very serious moral ambiguity that comes up when you talk about these kinds of things, you know, cloning someone, downloading their previous consciousness and then putting it into another body. What is that going to do? What effect does that have on the soul, so to speak, you know, and what is the soul? And I really want that to be a question that comes up in these books, because that's my favorite topic to talk about when it comes to all of these technological things they're bringing up. And that's one of those reasons that I absolutely love Fallen Angels so much, because in this very first issue, we already see the technology coming into it, where I think that they're going to be facing those same kind of morally ambiguous things on the outside as they do on the island. Hey, so it looks like Jean-Luc is going to have to head out. Hey, Jean-Luc, you have anything to say in pardon to everybody?
Well, it was a really fantastic meeting, everyone. Thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun. And hopefully I'll see you guys again in the future. Have a great show.
Come back soon.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Man, great.
Great to see you, Jean-Luc. As
Very
always.
glad.
Good talking to you again, Gateway, as well. Cheers, everyone.
Take care,
Cheers.
brother.
Later, mate.
Well, I think one of the other things is that everybody keeps forgetting is we still have an 11th life of Moira to deal with.
Uh-huh.
This can
Yeah.
still all be her 10th life.
Mhm.
Well, we don't
yeah.
know that there might be an 11th life, depending on what things happen. We'll know that for sure, I think, if when, what was her name?
Destiny.
Karma? Destiny. When Destiny gets near again and actually is closer to her end times, she'll know exactly when. I think that's why they don't want her on the island, correct?
Yeah. They don't want her alive.
They don't want any precogs alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not
That's-
backing her up.
That's the biggest clue and the biggest part of this writing foreshadowing that makes me believe that I'm right on track with my theories, that something very dark is going on that we can't see behind the scenes, you know, and I have to say it, I think that Apocalypse has a big part to play in it, you know, and unfortunately Moira as well, you know, because man, I like Moira's character. Well, I will say this, she was a little bit whiny in the old Claremont books, to be honest with you. I don't know if y'all kind of saw her characters but I still always liked her. You know, I always really, she's enjoyable as a character. So I don't know.
So
It's going to be really interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
So I just want to say, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Give the video a thumbs up. We have a great group here with the review or in the comments. We have a great panel for you today. And, you know, one of the things I do want to talk with you specifically, Chase, because I know this is something you're interested in, you know, with the idea of resurrection and keeping the soul intact to later put back in the vessel. Do you think that's being done well? And it feels like it's going to go sideways. Do you see it going sideways, especially now that Charles has been killed? When they try and bring him back, you know, Jean Grey isn't as powerful a psychic or a telepath as Charles. That maybe something will go wrong in that vein as well.
I need it to go sideways. And I'm saying that from a storytelling perspective. I think that, you know, Doc's talked about this a lot, and I agree with him 100%. If everybody can just be brought to life, back to life on a whim, then we really have to kind of think about the other issues that can come up. And that's the one that you just mentioned. You know, I was just mentioning while you stepped away, about, you know, what is the soul? And I want that to be kind of a philosophical question that comes up. You know, what is consciousness? And kind of delving into those things. And I was saying that I think Hill's doing a great job already, kind of coming to the technology aspects of that as well. And yeah, this is I need there to be a problem to come up with people accidentally getting put in the wrong bodies. That's going to be freaking cool. And I know it's coming. It has to be.
Well, yeah. What if somebody has a power, but like Beast isn't, he's not ferocious enough, but you want to put somebody that's more of a militant person because he has so much physical power. You put a different mind in there so they can control that weapon that he truly is. And a lot of bad things could happen, in that vein for me at least.
Yeah.
So did anyone else have any thoughts on Resurrection or anything else about like the overarching themes of Dawn of X that we've keyed in on so far?
I feel like maybe Apocalypse is right where he always wanted to be. It made me think of and I know it's a different thing, but like in the Avengers movie, or in a lot of things, the villain goes right to where the heroes are, willingly get right in the middle of things and be very agreeable about everything. Somebody who you just, when you got Sinister and people like that are in the mix here. But Apocalypse, what if, like I said about him and Moira's one life together, they could have just, could all just be a setup for like, they just got everybody where they want them, and now he's like, maybe he just got tired of fighting and saying, well, what if I just give them, like, what if we figure out how to give them what they want? Maybe it'll be just so much easier to take control of everything right from the inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought the same thing. Cause when you read those timelines, it's, her and Apocalypse are planning stuff out, and he kind of came up with a plan on how they were gonna find out when what was it, the big bad that looks kind of stupid, Nimrod. When Nimrod finally came to be, and they needed to get that information and send her back so we could end him before he happens. So there's definitely a lot of chances that they actually have other plans, and maybe that she doesn't want Charles ever reading her mind again, because after that she actually went and found him and talked to Cable about this other plan, and they're enacting it.
Yeah. So as far as these kind of individual books go, if we're talking about themes, I will say this: I didn't see a theme so far really emerge from Excalibur, so to speak, but there was an overall theme in all of these, and I think the biggest one for X-Men was kind of the establishing a home, finding your place in a broken world. I feel like they're doing that with the Summers family. And I feel like they're going to, with this #2 issue, kind of touch on those same things with the islands finding their home together by merging. And then the Summoners family is probably going to come into this, that kid that approached them when they first got to that island, I also think... Say that again?
He's the son of war.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that they're going to find that they, what do you figure out when you do find the rest of your family? What is family? I think they're going to kind of touch on those, psychological aspects, and I like that, But my favorite themes overall were Fallen Angels and X-Force. And, Fallen Angels was what happens to warriors during peacetime. It's really great, and it's kind of a similar theme as X-Force, where peace can never last. War is almost inevitable, and what do we do when war comes to us? How do we react? And I think that's that morally gray line that they're going to have to cross, and I think that's probably the biggest thing that I love about these X-Force books, and Fallen Angels as well. I think that they're both going to be the most psychologically gripping, to be honest, as far as that writing goes and the themes. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Definitely about the home stuff, because like with the Summers family looking for, Cyclops is trying to build a home for his family. In Marauders, Kitty's trying to bring mutants that, where they live now is hostile, and they're trying to bring them back to a home. You got Fallen Angels, where it's like, what if you have a home, but you don't really, you can't really live there. New Mutants is, right now, one of the storylines is about bringing Cannonball back home to the rest of the group. They didn't feel complete. They didn't feel like a family, a complete home until they can go get Sam back. X-Force is about protecting the home. and Excalibur. That's the only one.
Yeah.
That's the only one that's that's just being that just hasn't really established. You're right.
I like that
theme, just magic and how that's going to affect things. And I
Uh-huh.
feel like probably Excalibur and New Mutants, like when Hickman says that it's going to have like this overreaching thing, that's going to be the most important thing. I think Excalibur is going to have something happen in it that's going to be kind of along those lines of New Mutants. That's going to have some sort of really important role to play, and that's why the book will probably be around a little while longer. But yeah, the overall theme for Excalibur doesn't really seem to have one that connects as much as the other books does.
Dude, I agree 100%. Yeah, and I like how you touched about X-Force and home. I never thought about it. All of these books seem to be touching on that theme of home. And, what is that? How do we maintain it and keep it, but also in that same Lou, what is utopia, and can we have a utopian home? Family is going to fight.
All right. So I believe, Doc, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
All right. Were you wanting to do some stuff with comics now?
I was going to do a giveaway for the Max #1. I know it's kind of off topic, but let's just go with all right, we'll do it with a little bit of trivia. Before Sam Keith did the Max, what was he best known for doing? And the first person to get it in the chat wins. Sadly, it's only open to U.S. customers. Well, brother, I'll send it to. Hey, I'm giving it away to the chat.
I know.
Jesus,
I just can't help. I have a hard
crowing gateway and walk through and just walk it over to him, Doc.
Yeah, I know, right?
We have the technology.
Yeah. So come on, chat. Don't. Nope. Sorry. Oh, Malibu Barbie. Not quite Malibu Barbie. All right. No, sorry, it was not movie script layouts.
all right. Yeah.
It is X related.
All right.
And it was from the late 80s, early 90s. What was Sam Keith best known for before he left and went to Image and came up with the Max?
All right. So while we wait for people to get their answers, you repeated a couple times now. Let's move on to the next topic. One of the things that we've been told this whole time was that these are all going to be kind of connected, in one way or the other. Skip, what have you thought about the way that they've connected? Has it been meaningful? To you, do you think it's been done well, or do you think it's just kind of on the surface connections, but not really deep seated?
I believe, especially if we're going to pull, even some of the books that have already come out, but if we definitely pull Hawks and Pox into it, it's pretty apparent to me that it's completely connected to the X-Men universe. Especially in the way that, he was wrapping up continuity and whatnot, and, not dismissing it, but kind of making it all relevant, especially using the lives of Moira. So, I believe it's very well connected to it. And then where we're at now, I believe connections are still being made. But, for lack of a better pun, these are, seeds that have just freshly been planted. So we're only going to see, the roots got to grow down before branches grow out and up, right? So these seeds are freshly planted. We if anything, we're it's in the germination period, if you will, where we're starting to see the little buds. Maybe if we can see through the ground, if we cut the ground in half and we have that side view perspective, we're starting to see where they're growing down into. But I believe it's probably still far too early for us to see, obviously, exactly what the full connection, will be. But we can, you know, if we don't want to live by blind faith when it comes to Johnny Hickman, then it's going to be us looking at his past works from X-Men to Fantastic Four to, you know, even the stuff that he's done in Infinity and whatnot. Obviously, the Avengers run, and you know, we're going to see that that's what he does. He makes things connect. He makes things relevant. And going forward, I know this is a whole perspective and paradigm shift for everyone. And, you know, there's probably still a lot of trepidation, if not just flat out, you know, bewilderment. Like, what? Who? Why are they like this? And everything from the pod people description to the, you know, maybe slightly different characterization or full different characterization, you know, notions that we have. It's early on, you know, each of these books just planted their seed with the first issue. You know, we got to give them a little bit more time to see exactly how they're going to connect and how well they're going to connect.
That's what I'm feeling too. I think it's going to take time to create all of those connections.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, like for X-Men #2, you know, the whole setup is, you know, Charles has been assassinated in X-Force #1. Cypher has gone out into space in New Mutants. So there's no one actually there to talk to Krakoa. So they have no idea why the island is meeting this other island halfway. So I thought that was like interesting. But I'm looking for, you know, I think in the future things will be a lot like deeper and more meaningful. Is that what you're expecting, Doc?
I think so. I still feel like, you know, they're just gonna walk back the Xavier dying thing, and I'm surprised that they're trying to make it as big of a plot point as they have so far, considering that, you know, okay, they're without him for like a couple days. Well, because they can still resurrect him. But I am surprised that but at least they're getting a little more, you know, they're keeping referencing, you know, stuff going on in the other books. And I think we're going to get a little bit more of a clear path forward.
Mm-hmm. And does that get, you know, kind of what you want out of the X-Men books? Do you want everything to be tied together, or do you want to be able to read X-Force just by itself?
Well, see, every book, my philosophy on this has always been, it's a hard balance to meet, but you need to keep continuity, but not have to read everything else. Like little editors notes were always useful for that, in case somebody did want to go and check something out. Basic explanations of what you know, what happened that you're referencing. But I think you should keep clear continuity where, you know, if somebody dies in one book, he's not appearing in the next one. If somebody's out on a mission in one series, he shouldn't be just hanging around the island in another. You know, keep it at least coherent. You know, it's like TV shows or books. If somebody walks off screen, then they're in the next scene in the same room. You know, that's kind of weird. It feels like then why did he just leave if he's right there?
So, Doc, I have to interrupt you. My good friend Skippin' Tosh, my partner in crime, my nerd from my other herd, is going to be leaving us. Thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything you want to say before you leave?
Kelly Kapowski would like to say that you all have been very fine gentlemen. You've brushed your teeth and showered. Most of you, not all of you, she knows. And she appreciates your hygiene. And above all of you here, as beautiful and lovely and as critical thinkers as you are, she really appreciates chat for being so active today. So Kelly Kapowski blows a kiss to you, chat, and I wave my hat and rub my bald head. Thank you all for being so beautiful.
Take care, dude.
Good to see you, man. Always good talking with you.
Always, Chase. I'll talk to you soon, my friend. Stay positive.
Yes,
I love it.
Yeah, you too, man. You too.
All right, Doc. Do we want to celebrate this by giving away another comic book?
Yes, I think we will. Okay, here's one that I will give away the X-Men #1 from Jim Lee and Chris Claremont. This one is, I'm trying to think what my question should be, though. I think the question should be, okay, this one's simple. If you were here earlier, how many copies of X-Men #1 were, well, sold?
The Chris Claremont, Jim Lee, X-Men #1, the most sold copy in the history of the world.
Yep. I don't need an exact number. Just you get to the closest million, and I'm happy. So, as when somebody gets it in the chat, I will do, and we can give it away.
And if you have Twitter, you can contact Scott Doc there to claim your prize. If you don't, you can always join the Discord server. He's also there, and you can. And we do have a winner.
We already have a winner. Anyway,
so, you can contact him at ScienceJesus on Twitter, or you can get into the Discord server if you don't have that, if you don't have Twitter, and you can contact him there and DM, and you can get your prize, which be great. X-Men #1, Jim Lee's art, Chris Claremont writing, couldn't be even better.
All right.
So, Doc, out of all the next, the wave 2 of Dawn of X, is there one title that you're looking out for? We've got Wolverine coming up. We got the Fantastic Four, X-Men, mini series from Chip Zdarsky. We got X-Corp coming up, which we don't have a lot of information on. Is there one of them that you're looking forward to the most?
Wolverine, the solo Wolverine book, easily. Yep. I love the way that Ben Percy, was writing Wolverine and X-Force #1. If he can keep that up, literally the only thing I have complaints about on this is that they're not using the traditional Wolverine logo. That's it.
Yeah,
if that's what I'm nitpicking, you're fine.
The military, we call it queep.
Yeah.
So, Rob, what's the series you're looking out for? Do you have a reason for it?
Well, I mean, the like Doc says Wolverine, but what Chip Zdarsky did with the Spider-Man, and especially his last issue that he did on Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, and then what he's doing on Daredevil right now is just unbelievable stuff, taking it street level. So Fantastic Four and X-Men is really interesting because he's been doing characters so well, and he's been understanding, especially Daredevil, and in one of the Daredevil #11, understanding the conversation between this cop and Spider-Man was so great.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm really looking forward to on a writing level that book more, because Wolverine's going to give me what I know. Wolverine's going to give me the snick that I want. But Zdarsky's going to give me the writing that I want.
Yeah, and his Marvel 2-in-1, for at least the first 6 issues before they destroyed it with terrible art, was phenomenal. I couldn't believe they didn't give him the Fantastic Four book just based off of that. Oh, it's so good. Yeah, I'm really excited about that too. What do you think they're going to do with Franklin Richards, Doc? Because I know that you're not a fan of the character, and that's basically what that series is going to kind of center on, right?
Well, it's not that I'm not a fan of the character. I actually like Franklin. The problem is he's so overpowerful that you can't effectively use him without. They need to constantly age him down. Otherwise, he's a walking Deus Ex Machina. Mm-hmm. He can do literally anything. And because he is so freakishly overpowered, and that's kind of a problem. How interesting can you make a story? I mean, it comes back to kind of the Superman paradox. It's hard to do Superman well because he can do pretty much anything. So you make most of the Superman story about his interpersonal conflicts, not the fights that he has. he's more tested on a philosophical level rather than a physical level, because physically he can just punch anything or run faster than it or whatever. And it's the same problem that they have with Jean when she has Phoenix powers. They're so overpowered that you kind of have to depower them. And while they're useful temporarily, you can't do a series all the time with it.
Mm-hmm. It's one of the reasons that you can't really have super overpowered villains, because heroes have like a moral code, and then you can use that against them.
Yeah,
like to make them not do what they need to do because they they have moral quandaries. But villains don't have those restrictions. So if you can't get to somebody and be like, if you do this, there's going to be a negative outcome. They're like, I don't care.
Yeah,
everyone's a guy. It never works out when you have the super overpowered villains.
This also brings up, when you talk about Franklin, it makes me wonder, because you brought it up earlier, just shortly, or briefly, but when we talked about Legion, and or even
Jamie Braddock,
the other Summers guy who caused Donovan, Nate Summers, X-Man, both reality benders.
Yeah.
Where are they? And the same kind of thing along the lines of Franklin Richards. When you got these characters that could just change anything, these OP characters that could just fix things, like Captain Marvel at the end of Avengers Endgame, just blows everything up and turns the tide all of a sudden. It's interesting how do you handle those kind of characters, and I think that's probably plays a big part in why you haven't seen those two characters in the X books. And then how do you deal with Franklin in these books when he's a very problematic character for what the X books are trying to do?
Well, it's the reason why they constantly de-age him and then take his power away. And it's the same reason why they, anytime Jean ends up with the Phoenix, they kill her. But at the same time, Rachel can have the Phoenix Force and still be interesting. Probably because she's much younger and unsure of her powers, and I don't think she's nearly as powerful as Jean as a telepath or a telekinetic, so that's probably a little bit, but yeah, they just have to, they killed Nate the first time. Well, they didn't really. He what was it? He basically went to a higher plane of reality. And then they write Legion out. They basically kill him. He kind of ends up just vanishing for a while. And they constantly do this with these OP characters. And it's fine. So it allows you to bring them back. It allows you to play with them for a little while. But they can't really stick around. And I think you're going to have that problem. I think they might explore that. I hope that they explore that in the Fantastic Four X-Men series.
All right, Chase, what are you most looking forward to? And I also forgot about the giant-sized X-Men that Hickman himself is going to be writing.
Yeah, I'd have to say that all three of those look great. And I'm, it's interesting that I said that New Mutants was probably going to look great too, but I just did not resonate with it at all. Like, that was my least favorite of all of the Dawn of X books so far. But Zdarsky's incredible. So his work, I'm looking forward to him doing something X-Men related, because, and don't slap me for this, but I only read the first couple issues of Daredevil and I was like, this is fantastic, but I don't really like the character.
Issue 5, man. That's the story. That's
I'm going to end up getting the trade. Yeah, I'm going to end up getting the trade, but I've never been a big Daredevil fan, if you will. So, it's not Zdarsky, because I love what he's doing recently. I loved Life Story. I think it was my favorite Spider-Man story in years and years and years. So,
I think if you read Spectacular Spider-Man 310, your mind will be changed.
I absolutely have that comic. I got that single issue, and it was the best single issue from, I guess it was 2 years ago, wasn't it? A year and a half ago? Yeah,
like
absolutely love 310. And you know what's incredible about him? He can do amazing art and write at the same time, but mind-blowing writing, and that is very rare. I mean, look at what's his name? Why am I so stupid right now? Todd McFarlane, of course. He's just not the best writer, but he's, oh my God, one of the best artists on the planet, So for Zdarsky to do what he does is very impressive. So I'm looking forward to that. But of course, Ben Percy's book and Wolverine. So those are the three. But I mean, is that all? Is there another one?
Well, there's X-Corps that's Carmen Carnero is the artist of. We don't know who the writer is. I'm assuming that is going to be Vita Ayala. And then there's also going to be a Moira book that I'm assuming is Leah Williams. But we haven't got the release. X-Corps was supposed to be February, but we haven't got the solicitation yet.
Okay. Yeah. Those are the three that I'm looking forward to then.
Yeah, I think it's going to be amazing. So, we talked a lot about X-Men here today, and normally on Comics Aficionados, we do comic book recommendations. But, hey, we got more people. We got more comics to recommend. I'm going to put it out there. Jonathan Hickman's Secret Warriors. I read the first volume last week, and it's excellent. If you like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's like that, but like a billion times better. I was blown away by the quality, and I really like the Nick Fury in that book. And I think everyone should go read Secret Warriors. It is excellent. Doc, I know you got recommendations, but you also have one more comic book.
Yes. So I have one more comic book to give away, and it's the Wildstorm Spotlight #1, and with Majestic. And sorry, did I dip out for a second?
You did not.
Oh, okay, good. Sorry, my phone rang and my computer started ringing too. It's probably the best X-Men or the best Superman story I've ever read without Superman. And so the trivia question for this is, Wildstorm was one of the Image studios. And it was created by Jim Lee. What were the other 6 Image founders' names?
Man, that's going to be... I think I can get most of them. There's one guy I always forget.
Uh-huh.
All right. While people are thinking about that, Doc, what comics are you recommending this week? Or is it going to be homework?
You know what? No, yes. Hold on a second. You know what? Dip back to me in a second. I just got to double check the numbers.
All right, Rob. Do you have anything you want to recommend this week? It can be new comics, something old, whatever you like.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've all been talking about, or at least a few of us have been talking about Undiscovered Country by Scott Snyder and Charles Soule. But you can look at our videos and both Wes and mine's and other people's that have made Undiscovered Country videos. That book is a no-brainer at this point. You read that book, you hear, wow. But the book that I'll recommend is something that I picked up and have been plowing through the back issues of that I can't recommend highly enough because it's just so weird and a lot of fun. I didn't think I'd like it. And that's Redneck by Donny Cates from Image, about a bunch of vampires living in the Southwest and their backstory and the history of their clan and everything and how they do things. It's just wild and fun, and Donny Cates just does it again. And it doesn't have to be Marvel or DC that makes him good. He's just a good writer, and man, it's a crazy story, and I just can't stop reading it. I have plowed through the first 24 issues. Like, I plan on doing a video talking about it fairly soon, just because I just can't get enough of it.
Nice. That one's so far along. I'm intimidated to get into it, but I am going to be reading God Country soon. I believe that's Donny Cates.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that one. All right, Doc, we got a winner.
Yes, we do. Komodo Dragon. He wins with Portasio, Jim Lee, Eric Larson, Rob Liefeld, Todd McFarlane, Mark Silvestri, and Jim Valentino. And
one I always forget.
Yep. But there's one guy that is always forgotten because he never took partnership. Does anybody know who it is?
Can I say it?
Go for it.
Oh, I want to say that it was probably, was it Dale Keown
No.
or was it Sam Keith?
No. It was
No.
not an artist. It was the only one that was not an artist.
Or Eric
Oh.
Stevens.
No.
Yeah.
It was Chris Claremont.
Oh,
Whoa. Really?
Yep. He was one of there was originally 8 founders of Image, only 7 became partners.
that's right.
Dude, so I bet if he would have stayed there, well, see, here's the thing though, I feel like when Image, you got to have a good writer, and that was it's a good topic actually to kind of think about, but they were all artists and they thought, oh, we can just write all this ourselves and no problem, but some of those books were written really poorly.
Well, that's because they just had their buddy or their little brother doing it. I mean, Mark Silvestri had Eric Silvestri writing.
Yeah.
Jim Lee was friends with Brandon Choi, so he basically just gave him every book to write.
Yeah.
But no, Claremont was one, and that's where his Huntsman character was added. He was using that character. He wanted to kind of use that to create like a degree of like connective tissue between all the books.
Okay.
And they were originally going to try to do a universe, and then they decided not to. So, yep, that's a piece of.
You can contact Doc via Twitter at Science Jesus, or if you don't have Twitter, you can go to our Discord server. The link is in the description of the video, and he's at the Doc there.
And as for my recommendations, they are related to Fallen Angels. X-Men, the Adjectiveless book, issue 20 through 23. They have the first couple appearances of Quanon, because originally, they weren't Quanon. It wasn't a body swap. Betsy ended up in, grabbed by Spiral and in the body shop, and basically they just took her body and turned it into an Asian ninja. And then later they started retconning all this stuff. And so that's my homework recommendation. My new comics recommendation is definitely X-Men number 2, Fallen Angels number 1. You know what? I still got to give them a shout out. Rags, go pick up the issues. It's a good book and it's holding well. And I want to convince Brian to do more issues than just 7. So go buy Rags too.
All right, Doc, you got to put your stones on the line. Which one's better, X-Men number 2 or Fallen Angels number 1?
For me personally, Fallen Angels number 1.
Oh, what's wrong with you? It's X-Men number 2. Come on.
It was X-Men 2 was goddamn good, but my continuity freak in me was, I loved X-Men or Fallen Angels 1.
X-Men 2 felt like a Claremont book.
It did. It really did, but
it was a great week for X-Men.
It really was. You can't lose either way, really.
Yeah,
they're both solid investments of your money.
Mm-hmm. All right, Chase, what are you recommending this week, buddy?
So, man, it's not because of continuity, because that's not even much of a thing with me, to be perfectly honest with you. Only if it's done well. I'm obsessed with how the writing impacts me. The symbolism, the imagery in Fallen Angels number 1 made it my favorite book of the week. Specifically that intro page with the flower blooming from blood. I mean, when you think about how powerful of an image it is for, blood, the symbol of death or dying, to bring life, that is utopia. And that's exactly what Brian Hill was really trying to create, is that imagery that even death creates life on Krakoa, which is freaking incredible imagery. I'm telling you, he's he masterfully conveyed what good writing should be in Fallen Angels #1. So I have to say that is right up my alley. Again, I didn't much care for the art. X-Men #2 is great. I haven't read anything else except for Black Stars Above issue #1 by Vault Comics, and it was fantastic. It was a historical horror book, and I think anyone would enjoy it. It was set in 1887, and it was really good. It was really good.
Yes, if you like science fiction and like horror books, Vault Comics is a newer publisher, and they're amazing. Can't recommend them high enough.
Yeah.
All right, so those are recommendations this week. I want to give a special thank you from Rob from Smirking Gun Reviews. I can't recommend his channel high enough. You know, I think most of the viewers here probably know Doc. They probably know Chase. You might be new to the viewers. Give them your pitch, your 1 or 2 minutes on why they should come and check your channel out.
Well, I try to come at things like there's so many reviewers out there that review movies, TVs, comic books, whatever. And I'm not purposely trying to like do everything. I have a lot of interests. But what a lot of reviewers, they come at you at the technical levels, which I respect. I really, really do, especially when they know what they're talking about. But I don't think enough people talk to people honestly and on a street level kind of way that people want to hear about things. They don't always want to hear about the lighting and the pacing and things like that. So I try to talk to people the way you want to have having a conversation with a friend about something that doesn't sound like somebody's talking above your head. Where you can make something that is really good sound really too far off for people, you know, that they won't understand what you're talking about. So I try to talk to people the way that you just have a conversation with somebody. So if you want, but I'm also really honest, sometimes a little too honest, probably. And I try to bring myself and how it makes me feel, whatever I'm talking about, and how it can relate to situations that just in the world and when it's appropriate. But that, and I try to show how much I love the stuff that I'm talking about and the enthusiasm that I have for what I'm talking about. Whether I have a script or whether I have notes or I do it, you know, unscripted and, you know, improvised. I'm just trying to share my love for this stuff. I'm not interested in making money off of it. I have a full-time job that pays for my stuff. And so I've had all this useless knowledge maybe not useless, but a lot of people might call it useless knowledge in my head. And I finally have found a place in my life where I'm comfortable talking about it. And I hope that people can come to my channel and see that love and share that kind of love for stuff that maybe if you don't feel like you have a voice, if you feel like, you know, too many people are talking above your head, that you can come to my channel and just have a talk with a friend, a conversation with a person that's, you know, relatable, a real person. A lot of people, like, you can just tell that they're doing it for the money after a while. When they get so big, it becomes almost like a corporation. And while I am almost at 1,000 subscribers, I always say I'm never going to monetize because I want to be able to do things the way I do them. I don't want to have to worry about advertisers and things like that saying this isn't suitable for who or what, without being too over the top. But I'm me. And so it's like, you know, every person's, you know, one person can love you, another person can hate you. But I accept all opinions. I respect all opinions as long as you're respectful. And yeah, I mean, I'm just a guy who loves comics and movies and TV just as much as the average person out there. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, that's the pitch, people. If you want to go and have a conversation about comics, movies, TV shows with your friend down the, you know, at the bar, go to Smirking Gun's channel. You're going to enjoy it. He's got some great content out there. He's got stuff that you won't find other places. You know, he only talks about the things that he loves, the things that he has passion about. He doesn't just talk about everything that's big in the news. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about your channel. Also, if people want to follow you on social media, Rob, where can they find you?
Well, I'm on Twitter at reviews_gun. That's pretty much it. I mean, I have a Facebook page like Robert Stone, my real name, you know, like I don't know how to do a lot of this stuff. I'm still learning. you know, even all my videos can tend to look different from one to the next because I'm experimenting on things and all that, and just the platform of itself and working a full-time job. You know, it's hard to put in the time to just, you know, be as savvy and cool and look great, because that's another thing about my videos is they look pretty raw. And so, you know, I think that helps too, it to bring down, like, to know that I'm just like everybody else and not like, you know, trying to be something I'm not or whatever.
Rob
I'm not
is
very
the Eddie Murphy of comic book YouTube. You heard it here, folks. All right, Doc. Where can people find you on social media?
Just at Science Jesus on Twitter and on the Discord server at the Dot.
Absolutely. Join the Discord server. Be part of the conversation. All four of us are there. All the comics aficionados that were there yesterday, and we got a lot more people. Tim, Lim, Dylan, Ash on Comics are all there. We talk about comics. So definitely go into the video description and join the Discord server. Finally, Chase, you got a YouTube channel. Where can they find you on YouTube and social media?
Absolutely. So on both Twitter and on YouTube, I am Gateway into Comics. And, you know, I mostly talk about writing because that's my obsession. I could look at a piece of art and I could say, oh, I like that. And then I could say, well, oh, maybe I don't really like that. But I couldn't tell you for the life of me why that is. I just know what I like when it comes to art. So I do a lot of critique when it comes to the writing process specifically, what I like and don't like about it. That's my passion. I've always been a writer. I actually, under my name, my real name, I've had a few things published that were absolutely horrible. I've gotten a little bit better since then. And so, yeah, I'm going to eventually be doing some comics, but I'm not in a rush. You know, like I said, also I have a full-time job and a business I'm creating myself right now. So this is a hobby and I enjoy it. And I talk about writing mostly. So join me for that if you'd like.
Perfect. Thank you all, everybody, for joining us. We had a great chat today. Salamapo.